my Lord. Who is this? Who is this fine young gentleman sitting on a podcast live stream? We're streaming, by the way. We are doing this on YouTube as part of, well, what we're going to be talking about today. We're back, baby. We're back. It's SPC Rebirth. I'm so excited to be sitting here across from my friend and compadre here, my partner in comic book crime, as I say, Remso Martinez. What's up, Remso?
Mark, we're in a brand new world, a new timeline, an alternate Earth. We are, as the kids would say, rebooted, resequeled, redone,
There are a lot of ways to
back, resurrected, Netflix rebooted,
something like that.
continued.
We're still trying to sort out if this is an alternate timeline, if this is like an Earth One type thing. Are we redoing our origin story at all? Are we picking up from the old? Is it like everything matters? You know, did everything happen in various different universes? I don't know. For now, I guess we'll just call this the SPC Rebirth, but it can be whatever you want. It can be all new, all different. It can be a year one and Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 7, whatever. Either way, we're back, and I'm excited.
And we're not changing the numbering.
No, I'm not. I think, well, we're going to talk about, we're not changing the numbering. Well, we kind of are in a way. It kind of depends on how you look at things. But for those of you who are listening and or watching, it's possible some of you are new. That would be wonderful as well. But for any of our old fans, I guess you might say, it's been what, like, for you said, I mean, I've been podcasting. I got other stuff going on, but you haven't podcasted what, since like last October, you said?
I got back, so I have been out of the state, away from my home since October. And I've been back now for about a week and a half. And let me tell you, just trying to get the little setup all put together was overwhelming. Where do I put the mic? Is my connection right? Is everything working out? Is the camera good? Is the background different? Yes, it is. I just noticed that. Why am I
Mine is
just noticing
different.
that
Mine is
now?
very different. Yours is different as well.
It's a lot more sunny.
So
But
maybe it is all new, all different. I don't know.
maybe. But yeah, no, it has been far too long. And I want to go ahead and just start with this to our patrons, to our listeners, to those who jumped on to old episodes, to those who went ahead and grabbed on to the classic reruns that we went ahead and put out during the fall. Thank you so much. Because to go ahead and do this program is an act of love, first and foremost. This community that we've created since the dark days of 2020 has been all about one thing: giving power back to the fan, to the readers, to the viewers, to people that go ahead and make this comic book community so awesome. And we were, chomping at the bits to get back, Mark and I, planning, plotting, perusing through all the what if scenarios of where we could take things. And we think we've got a pretty good idea of how we're going to go ahead and give you the classic SPC that you know and love, while also doubling down on the new things that get you excited, that get us excited.
Yes, I mean, because that's really the key here. And I think for both of us, towards the end of the last year, we were both kind of dealing with a lot of tumultuous type things. And at the end of the day, I mean, we were just struggling to try to coordinate, to try to get together to to record our episodes. And it got to the point where we realized we couldn't really keep it going in the current state that it was at the current time. So we did make the difficult decision to go on a hiatus for a bit. But, I think one of the biggest things that inspired me during that hiatus, not only did most of our patrons stay remaining supporting us, we did, of course, continue to send out our hardcover graphic novels that everyone on our Patreon, it's kind of become like a book club. Everyone in the epic crossover level, $25 a month or more, every 3 months we send them a hardcover of our choice, a hardcover graphic novel. So we kept that stuff going. We kept in communication. I did a few bonus shows here and there, just to remind the patrons that we do care about them. We are thinking about them, but they're the ones that really showed us what a great, strong community that we've built here. Because not only did we maintain our support from almost everybody, we actually got I don't know if he wants to be named or not, but we got a somewhat
mysterious benefactor.
A mysterious benefactor, yes. We actually got a very large contribution that we're extremely grateful for from one of our longtime fans. And basically, once that happens, you kind of have to come back.
I legitly cried. Like I'm not even exaggerating.
There was some welling up. I was touched.
Yeah, there was some tears shed during that moment, because often you go ahead and you put out content and you might see numbers come back that are good or bad, but you really wonder whether or not it's resonating with people, whether or not you're actually adding value to people's lives. And at the end of the day, folks, I mean, this is a comic book podcast. I mean, this is where we talk about all the things that don't matter to your everyday life. I mean, everyone's got their own stuff going on. So for you all to spend not just your money with us, but your time, the one resource you don't get back, we don't treat that fleetingly. That means more to us than anything. The money does too, but the fact that you helped us keep going during this period will never go unappreciated by either of us.
Absolutely, and for anyone tuning in now that either is someone just learning about us for the first time, or maybe a fan that kind of got on towards the end of the run and stuck around, maybe we can do a quick sort of recap of our origin story. But Remso and I are both lifelong comic book fans, and as Remso mentioned, this podcast was launched during the darkness, the deep darkness that many of us were experiencing during the beginnings of the whole schmooby dooby schmobid bobid hysteria. Let's just put it that way.
Chinese
We're on
takeout
YouTube now. Yeah,
surprise.
we're on YouTube now, so we're gonna try to be a little careful and try not to get a strike right away. So I'll keep my opinions somewhat to myself, maybe on that whole thing. But the point is, it was a dark time, no matter how you looked at it. And Remso and I kind of used that time to do some more things, sort of better my skills, and that's much, but also to go back and sort of distract myself. And I found myself reading a whole bunch of comics, older stories, kind of revisiting stories that I used to be a fan of, finding some new stuff. And while I had already gotten back into comics after a dark period, I think during the beginning of the pandemic, like, I found a lot of joy in escaping into comics. And I figured, if I'm experiencing this joy, if this is helping me get through this, perhaps with some sort of medium that we can create, maybe others could as well. And you're the first person that I thought of, having known you for years through podcasting in our other life, you might say. And I reached out to you, and I don't think there was more than 2 seconds of hesitation before you said, "Yep, let's do it." So
Oh,
that is
Avengers assembled, bitches.
yes, we have assembled. So yeah, that was really the impetus of SPC, and we have tweaked the format a bit over the years. I think when we first started, we were doing 2-hour breakdowns of long story arcs, and God bless any of you who sat through our very, very, very long early
It
podcasts.
was really easy to do that because there was nothing new
Yeah,
on
what else is going
TV.
on?
There was nothing in theaters because theaters weren't opened. It was very easy to go ahead and say, sit back, relax, and let us read you a story for 3 hours.
Indeed, and give you the backstory and go into the inside jokes. And don't get me wrong, that stuff is still gonna be around in some way, shape, or form. And sort of parallel to that was the growth of the Patreon, which I think we've both been flattered by from the beginning, because let's just say, we got some great ratios. We got some great downloads to Patreon ratios, and we're just flattered by the support that we continue to get, no matter if we're pumping out content like mad, that like we certainly were in the early days, and in really most of our run until the hiatus, we were pumping out content like mad, both in public and with the Patreon, even incorporating a second show, starting to do the newsroom as well, and bringing in more modern comic book talk, which also got a very good response. So now we've kind of taken, after almost close to 3 years, really, if you think about it, 2.5 years, I guess, we've kind of put everything that worked into a little stew, stirred it around a little bit, and come up with a little bit of a new plan to relaunch things, Remso. So I've talked a lot. I'll let you give your thoughts about this whole thing, and then we'll get into some of the details.
So, first and foremost, thank you, patrons. A couple updates on that alone. I promised in 2022, in I think the early fall of 2022, I was going to be continuing on with Remso versus the DCEU. Obviously, that got paused. We went ahead and had a great episode. We brought in Token Uncle Brody to cover the Suicide Squad with me. That will be continuing. And what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be following through with the plan I had last year, which was come up with the series and do them in batches. But what happens when I'm done with those batches? What if I want to go ahead and jump out and cover something current that maybe we don't have time to go ahead and throw into a regular episode? Well, you're in luck. The Remso rants that kicked everything off are coming back. After Remso versus the DCU, we'll be doing a few months of Remso rants, and I'm hoping by summer 2023, we'll go ahead and bring you Remso versus the MCU Phase 3. Those are basically series where I go ahead and look at Marvel films, and in the DCU case, DC films from the past. And I'm like, if I could tweak it in some way, how could I do that? Whether it's switching out characters, scrapping entire storylines, bringing in different directors. If I had my own Infinity Gauntlet and I had my Kevin Feige powers, or now my James Gunn powers, how could I go ahead and do that? So that series is going to continue. We're going to have the Remso rants covering, some conventions and stuff that I want to go ahead and hit up around the Midwest during that time as well. So we're getting the batch work done, so that way there will never be a week missed. No more late night uploads where you hear that I'm obviously recording from my bedroom or my car or something like that. It's full on professional from here, folks. We got expectations to uphold. So on that front, thank you. But now this has been the other thing. What are the changes? Some of you are going to really be happy. Some of you might be a tad confused, which is why I'm going to go ahead and let Mark explain this part. What is happening with the new format? What should people expect month to month from us as they listen to us week to week?
Sure. And I think the most important thing for us relaunching is that we want to make sure we can look. I mean, my life and Remso's life are very different right now than they were when we launched this show 2.5 years ago. We both have a lot more obligations. We're both married. Neither of those things were true when we first launched this thing. A lot of things has changed. We have a lot more obligations, a lot more going on in the world. So really the only way we're going to be able to do this and to bring this show back is if we tweak things a little bit. If we tweak,
think of us as Walter the teacher, and now we're Walter the meth dealer.
That is one way to look at it. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all still science, but one way moves things along a little more faster and a little more interesting. So that's what we're hoping for. A little faster and a little more interesting. But basically, and our classic format is essentially that Remso and I swap duties producing an episode and going back and looking at an old story or something like that. Now, often that old story might be a 4, 5, 6, 7 issue. In some cases, looking at you, Maximum Carnage, 14 issues that we would dive into. And still to this day, that's not even the longest one.
I had to pee in a bottle one time.
That's not
which episodes? You'll never know.
I don't even want to know about that. That's not even the craziest episode that I did. It was not that 14 episode. I think it was either 21, it might have been 24 issue breakdown of the first run of Savage Dragon. And somehow it did that.
I peed in the bottle.
That makes sense. Somehow I did that in 2 hours. I don't even know how. I don't even know if that necessarily made for good content per se, because when you're doing that much and trying to squeeze it into an episode, even if it's a 2-hour episode, you just can't get into the details. And I think one thing we learned as we tweaked the format over the years is I think our real wheelhouse is really when we're just doing more detailed analysis, a deeper breakdown, looking at the nitty gritty of sort of a lesser amount of issues. We've done a lot of experiments doing just sort of some one shots and that sort of thing. So I think we learned a lot from doing that. So basically we're going to take all of those lessons, those formats, and sort of combine them into what we're going to be calling SPC Reissued. Now basically I'm going to break down 2 different formats we're going to have, because we're going to kind of bounce back and forth, because one thing that's also gotten a great response from not just our fans, our patrons really like this
Mark,
stuff.
I just realized I don't have my power plugged into my laptop. It's at 5% because I'm just getting back from October.
Well,
so you explain this.
You go do that because now we go do this live, because now we're doing video
live, folks,
and I'm not editing video, so I will do that while Remso remembers how to be a professional podcaster and have everything plugged in. But nonetheless, as far as the reissued show goes, that is going to be sort of akin to our classic format, where we're looking at a certain story, but instead of looking at potentially very large arcs, Remso, come on, you can't be cursing while you're arguing this stuff together. We're live, pal. We're doing it live.
Everything is raw, uncanny, untamed, unfettered.
Yes. But essentially this reissued format, SPC Reissued, is very similar to the classic SPC format, but we're going to be looking at no more than probably 1 or 2 issues per episode. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow us a lot less preparation time, because that, what you see of us sitting in front of the camera, sitting in front of the microphones, discussing the show, recording the show. That's only a small portion of the time that goes into it. A lot of these stories, especially again, looking at you, Maximum Carnage, takes hours and hours and hours of preparation time. On top of which, I spend even more time taking notes because I'm kind of a flake, and if I don't have some kind of notes or at least have the book in front of me, like I'm gonna just lose so much that it's barely gonna be worth hearing me talk about. So we really need to cut down the prep time. So that's why we're doing no more than 1 or 2 issues. Now there will be exceptions, of course, because our patrons, including our mysterious benefactor, they also get to produce some episodes as part of the Kirby Club. They can do whatever they want as far as I'm concerned because they pay us money. So if they request an arc that's 4 or 5 issues, whatever, we're gonna figure it out. We might not be in
much like your parents. We have
favorites. We definitely have favorites.
Like everyone's parents, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not coincidentally just in order of who pays us the most and who's paid us for the longest. We're very simple creatures in that way.
We're looking at you, Jeffrey Bezos. Give us that Amazon money.
So when this show relaunches, which officially, I guess it's sort of now in a way, but officially we will relaunch next week, February 1st. It's a nice clean start. It feels good. You're going to get the first episode of SPC Reissued. I may as well preview it because I know what we're going to be talking about already. We're going to be looking at the origin, the real origin, the true origin of, really, despite our differences, despite the fact that he has me blocked on Twitter, despite the fact that he's a bit of a hysteric in many ways, and I probably wouldn't like him at all in real life. Despite all of that, Erik Larsen's Savage Dragon is still my favorite character of all time, my favorite comic of all time, and I think he is an incredibly talented writer. Well, he hasn't really written anything in the last year. He used to be a really talented writer, and he's probably still a talented artist. I do hope to see him return to his former glory because, I've been with that thing for almost 30 years now. So I'm probably just going to see it to the end, whenever that may be. It might already be the end because it's been like 6 months since we had an issue of Savage Dragon.
What you're telling us is during our hiatus, Savage Dragon also didn't come out.
That's
what a
true.
surprise.
No, there was not one episode. I almost feel like there's a symbiotic relationship here with Erik Larsen and I. It's almost like once he blocked me on Twitter, because he actually talked about this in one of his letters columns. He said he hit a really bad writer's block, and you can tell because there's just been issues totally stopped. At the same time, he took on doing this Ant series, which also hasn't had issues come out. So look, I wish the man the best because he's provided me a lot of joy in my life. He's provided me a lot of excitement, a lot of love for these characters and the books that he's created. So I will always wish him well. I don't hold grudges. I'm not even upset that he blocked me. Maybe I should have been blocked. Maybe he doesn't want to.
Unblock Mark.
Yeah, well, let's see. You can try to get him to unblock me if you want, but I don't really care. But either way,
no, he blocked me too.
Why? Through association?
Because I asked him why he blocked you.
Well,
and I tagged our Savage Dragon episode too.
Hopefully we got some more clicks out of that one. But yeah, my sort of online feud with Erik Larsen has been well documented both here on my Substack, markclaire.substack.com. Got to plug, always be plugging while you're here. So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at Savage Dragon episode. We're back, baby!
Reboot.
Oh, I knew we're back.
Reboot.
Well, there's going to be some carryovers, including my constant confusion of the words episodes and issues. So we're going to be looking at Savage Dragon issue number 0. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the show itself, but pretty interesting what they did here, actually, because Erik Larsen did this issue as part of a larger sort of image promotion they were doing. I think it was for maybe the 20-year anniversary, something like that. And published this 0 issue, so the readers got the real origin, the true origin of Savage Dragon before the characters, before the main book, before Dragon himself knew his origin. That stuff all happens, but that's what we're going to be looking at today. It's one I've had on the docket pretty much since day one, and I'm very excited to be talking about Savage Dragon and only be talking about 1 issue, not 24, so you will not have to pee in the bottle, Remso.
Yay.
So that is our new format, reissued, but that's not all we're going to do because, like I said, we've done a lot of pop culture content. We've talked a lot about current comics, and our patrons specifically have found out about a lot of current comics through us discussing, what the stuff we've been out there reading. So we don't want to shuffle that entirely to the side. You'll get more of that, of course, behind the paywall, patreon.com/secondprintpod. As little as $5 measly bucks a month. It's going to get you access to anything and everything we do. So you don't even have to worry about what goes where. But the other thing we're going to do every other week. So reissued is going to come every other week, starting on February 1st with our relaunch. But that's going to be an every 2 week show. And then also every 2 weeks, we're going to have SPC Pop, where we're looking at pop culture. We might be doing movie reviews, might be talking about TV shows we're watching, might be talking about other comics we're reading, might even be doing interviews, actually. We not even might. You are going to do an interview, Remso. Why don't you give that a little preview of that interview and talk a little bit more about what you're thinking about these format changes?
Patrons, get ready. I've gone ahead and locked in comic book artist and previous guest of the show, Matt Battaglia. You know him from the Indoctrination series as well as Crimson. He recently came out with a new book called House on Fire. I got an exclusive look of that. You can go ahead and find House on Fire available for pre-order on Amazon, but I'll be having Matt on for patrons for the first couple of weeks. You can go ahead and hear that exclusive interview over on Patreon, but that will later be released publicly afterwards. So if you want to get all the new scoop now, Patreon is where it's at. That's an advanced episode you'll be getting. It'll be released to the public a tad bit later at a time of our choosing. But, we know people not even like indirectly, like the past year I have I have a new job. I can talk a little bit about that. Some of you know that I've been doing a little bit of stuff for Bounding into Comics. I'm now a full-time writer for Bounding into Sports as well. If you want some off-field commentary on the lives and mischief of your favorite athletes. So, I mean, we've got a ton of opportunities available, and we want to go ahead and incorporate that where we can. And starting off this new year with an interview with our favorite artist, Matt Battaglia, is really going to help kick that off.
Yeah. So basically, there's a shorter, more condensed old format, and then an everything else format. That's pretty much how we're looking at things, and that's going to give us the ability to really, I think, hone in on the things that worked the most and focus on the things that worked the most, while saving us a tremendous amount of time in preparation and that sort of thing. So I'm very excited about it. I'm happy to be back. I'm thrilled to not only be reading comics. I've been reading comics this whole time, but to be talking about them, because it's only so much fun when you just read them. And then look, I could rant about what I'm reading to my wife, but she's just and she'll humor me. But it's just not the same as getting in the dirt with a real fan like you, Remso, and with all the real fans that have been so supportive of us doing this show for all these years, especially again over these last 3 months, which I continue to be just completely flattered and blown away by just the maintaining of our support, but also the growth of our support, which just seems absurd because we pretty much hardly did anything as far as comic related content goes in the last 3 months. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to anybody happening to even tune into this right now. Thank you to everyone who even graces us with a minute or more of your ear time, because we know it's very valuable. It's certainly a lesson in my life, is the value of time. So we're going to give you some more of our time after we weren't able to for a while, and we really appreciate you giving us your time, I should say. And maybe that's like an episode issues thing. It's going to take me a while to get back in the groove, guys, but I'm super excited, Remso. So I'll see you back here 1 week from today. We're going to be talking about Savage Dragon episode 0. Anything else you want to preview? Anything else you want to just spout out about?
Folks, we'll go ahead and just leave that little air of mystery there and remind you, if nothing else, there's one thing you could do, as you have before and always will. It's read comics and change the world. Good night, America.
Adios.